Hello there, this is Dr. Minidhavan and today I have brought CBSE Class 9 topic Constitutional Design. In this chapter, we will learn about Constitution, why do we need a Constitution, how are constitutions drawn up, who designs them and in what way. Once a constitution is accepted, can we make changes in it later according to the changing conditions? These are certain things which will be answered here in this chapter. First question which arises is, what is the need of the constitution? A constitution of a country is set of written rules that are accepted by all people living together in a country. So constitution is a supreme law and it determines or it tells the relationship among people living in a territory, means citizens of that country, and also it tells the relationship between the people and the government. So it tells both. In short, the supreme rules that no government would be able to ignore are called a constitution. Now the question comes, why do we need it? First reason is that it generates a degree of trust and coordination that is necessary for different kind of people to live together in a country. Means that there are so many diverse people who are living in our country, and because there are certain rules and regulations, they trust the system, the government, that nothing wrong will happen and they will enjoy equality status. Constitution provides protection and fundamental rights of the citizens that give trust of security and the support to coordinate with others' rights also. Secondly, it specifies how the government will be constituted or how the government will be made. What will be the criteria of making government and who will have the power to take which decision so that there is no controversy later. There is a manner prescribed in the constitution in which the central and the state government will be made. If constitution would not have been there, who would have set up this criteria? So, in this manner also, constitution is really very important for a country. Third, it lays down limits on the power of the government. Means government may not turn autocratic, it may not turn dictatorial. So it tells that the type of rule and what type of laws can be made, and tells us what the rights of the citizens are. Another thing which it tells is it expresses the aspiration of the people about creating a good society, what people aspire for, because at the end of the day it is democracy and it is only the people whose rule is there. So what they want becomes really important. It tells us what type of country people want. Now all countries which have constitutions, they are not necessarily democratic, but all the countries that are democratic will definitely need a constitution. We have seen that after the War of Independence against Britain, the Americans, they gave themselves a constitution. After the French Revolution also, the French people approved a democratic constitution. Since then, it has been a practice in all the democracies to have a written constitution. Now, making of Indian constitution. One of the major advantages for the makers of the Indian constitution was that consensus, means a general agreement about what a democratic India should look like, had already evolved during the freedom struggle. From 1858 onwards, the British government passed many acts for the government of India but could not satisfy Indian aspirations. In 1928, Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders, they drafted a constitution for India. In 1931, the resolution at Karachi session of Indian National Congress, they dwelt on how independent India's constitution should look like. Both these documents, they included features such as universal adult franchise, right to freedom, right to equality, and protecting the rights of minorities in the Constitution of Independent India. These basic values were accepted by all the leaders much before the Constituent Assembly met to deliberate, means to do careful and unhurried discussions on the Constitution. Many of our leaders, they were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution, the practice of parliamentary democracy in Britain, and Bill of Rights in United States. So they incorporated some good points of the constitution of these very countries in the Indian constitution. The making of constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not an easy affair. People of India, they were emerging from the status of subjects to that of citizens. Means we were under British rule and now we were becoming free and were on the verge of getting rights. See, subject is a person who has no rights or freedom. Laws are enforced upon them. Whereas a citizen, on the other hand, are entitled to have certain rights and liberties. So, India's constitution was drawn up under very difficult circumstances. The country was born through a partition, and in this partition, lot many people, they had very bad experiences, very traumatic experiences. This partition actually was on the basis of religious differences. At least 10 lakh people, they were killed on both the sides of the border in partition related violence. The British, they left it to the rulers of princely states whether they want to join Indian Union or they want to go with Pakistan, or they could have remained independent. So that was their choice to make. The merger of these princely states, this was a very difficult task and very uncertain one also, which was very nicely handled by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. When the constitution was being written, the future of the country did not look as secure as it is today. The makers of the constitution, they had their own anxieties, means they were worried about the present and the future of the country, as nothing was certain. The path of the constitution was a very difficult one. Our national movement was not merely a struggle against a foreign rule. It was also a struggle to rejuvenate, means to make or to bring a new life in our country and to transform our society and politics. India was familiar with the political institutions of colonial rule. Means British rule, as Indians, they were participating in election of provincial assemblies and they were knowing the criteria, and this also helped us to develop an agreement over the institutional design, that what type of institutions or the system of governance we want. The experience gained by Indians in the working of legislative institutions, it proved to be very useful for the country in setting up its own institutions. The Constituent Assembly. Now, what was Constituent Assembly? The Constituent Assembly was a body of elected representatives which drafted and framed the constitution of our country. Here, draft means basic outline. Now, as you know, the drafting of constitution was done by this assembly of elected representatives. Elections to the Constituent Assembly were held in July 1946 and its first meeting was held in December 1946. Soon after that, on 15th August, the country was divided into India and Pakistan. And the Constituent Assembly was also divided into the Constituent Assembly of India and that of Pakistan. The Constituent Assembly that wrote Indian Constitution had 299 members. First, some basic principles were decided and agreed upon. Then a drafting committee was made, which had Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as its chairman. This committee prepared a draft constitution for discussion and debates. The constitution reflects the best minds of the country. The Constituent Assembly was called Mini India as it had representatives of almost all the parts of the country. Every law was debated clause by clause, point by point, and a consensus means a general agreement of the members was arrived at. You know, India is having the longest written constitution in the world. The constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949 and was enforced on 26 January 1950. Now there is a story behind this, that why they waited till 26 January. They could have made 26 November as the Republic Day. The reason January 26 was picked as the day of constitution for the constitution to be enforced, because in 1929, during the Lahore session of Indian National Congress, a resolution was passed demanding complete independence for the first time. Purna Swaraj, the declaration was made by Congress. The aspirations for complete freedom was declared and flag of India was hoisted publicly across India. So we wanted this date to be important in independent India. That is why Constitution was enforced on 26 January 1950, and to commemorate we celebrate 26 January as Republic Day every year. Here I would tell you certain facts about Indian Constitution. The original copies of Indian Constitution were not printed, they were handwritten. And they were written in Hindi and English, both the languages. It was handwritten by Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada. Each member of the Constituent Assembly that drafted the Constitution, they signed 2 copies of the Constitution. One was in Hindi and another one was in English. Each page was decorated by the artist from Shantiniketan. And right now the original copies of Indian Constitution written in Hindi and English, they are kept in special helium filled cases in the Library of Parliament of India. So this is all for today's topic. Keep learning, stay tuned.